Hello again.
Hello,
It's you.
it's me, it's you.
It's us. And here we are together for another episode of
Factoraly. And you are Simon, don't tell me.
Okay.
Don't tell me. Simon
Go on.
Water Deep.
So close. Wishing.
Wells.
That's the one. Simon Wells. And you are Bruce, batting, pitching, throwing, catching. Oh, fielding.
Correct.
There you go.
That's how when people ask me how to spell my name, I usually say as in cricket or rounders or something.
Fine. Okay. And so who are we? What are we doing here?
We are voiceovers and we use our voice for a living to do all sorts of wonderful things. But we do a podcast.
Which is what you happen to be listening to. What a coincidence.
And Factoraly it's about facts.
Which we deliver orally.
Orally, yes. So today we're going to talk about money.
We are, yes. A dirty subject for some, but it is the system upon which an awful lot of everyday business is based.
Yes,
So,
and it has been for quite some time.
how long would you say?
Well, it depends what you call money.
Right?
So is money something that you exchange for something else? So, for example, if you're an Aztec and you want some tools
Yes.
and you have some cocoa beans
Yes.
and you switch the cocoa beans for the tools, are the cocoa beans money?
Right. That is a good distinction to make, isn't it? So, bartering, exchanging one type of goods for another, has been going on since forever. You know, someone has a thing that they don't need, someone else has a need that they don't have a thing for. Let's exchange. Quite simple. If you're exchanging a good directly for a good, I don't think that's money. I think money comes in where you're using some form of token that represents value.
Yes. That has an agreed value.
Yeah.
In Siberia, for example, like solid blocks of tea were used as money.
Right.
But they weren't to buy other tea. They were used to buy other things in Siberia.
Yes.
Or they had a lovely thing in Tristan da Cunha where potatoes were used as currency
Oh, really?
up until the Second World War.
Wow.
Quite recently.
That
yeah.
recently. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Canada used playing cards as banknotes for a while.
Did they? How odd.
Solomon Islands, they used dog's teeth as
Okay.
a sort of form of currency.
In parts of Africa and Europe, they were using seashells of various sizes
Yes.
and rarity for thousands of
Yeah.
years. Some of the oldest coins actually have an impression of a seashell on them because they were that
Oh, wow.
ubiquitous.
I didn't realise that.
So do you know where we get the first thing that can be recognised as a coin, for instance?
I don't.
So the first coins, or at least the oldest coins that we know to exist, came from around 770 BC from China. They were not terribly official. It's not like it was the national currency, but you can definitely see these metallic tokens with some kind of impression or engraving on them being exchanged for goods. And it was only a handful of years after that, 700 BC, that paper money was introduced again in China. So they sort of seem to have been the forefront of using this stuff.
Uh-huh.
But the first official national coinage that seems to have been found was from around 600 BC. And this was in Lydia, which is what is now part of Turkey. And King, I hope I get this right, King Aliates set up a royal mint. And so that country was the first place to have an official, nationally accepted, standardized currency, all the way back in 600 BC.
If we go back to like the 700s AD,
Mm-hmm.
we discover that there is a thing called a pound.
A pound?
The pound.
Don't think I've heard of those.
Never heard of it? So the pound is the oldest form of currency still in use in the world.
Really?
And it goes back to 775 AD,
Okay.
the first mention of a pound, and it was the value of a pound of silver.
Right, okay, so the word pound actually relates to the weight of a pound.
Yes.
Pound
Yeah.
of silver. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so if you think about weight, the short form for pound is LB
Yes.
when you write it down.
Yes.
And you can shorten that to L if you want.
Mhm.
And if you look at the pound sign, it's actually an L.
Ah. Right. Okay, now I have a different origin of that.
You're probably going for the livre.
I was.
So tell me about livre.
Right, the livre, as it shall now forever be pronounced. It's tricky, isn't it? When things come from different sources around the same time, it's very difficult to say which one is accurate. So I'm not suggesting that this one is right and your one is wrong, but they could coincide. King Charlemagne of France, around the same time, sort of the late 700s, came up with this currency, again based on a pound of silver. He divided his pound of silver into 20 sous, each of which was divided into 12 deniers, and this was called a livre. So the pound of silver was called a livre, and that it was the word libra, the Latin for money, that formed the L shape for the pound sign. But they could both be right. The symbol itself is older than I thought. The first example of that actually being written down, the Bank of England, in its vast collection of all things money related, they've got a cheque dated from January 1660.
Wow.
With a very, very obvious English pound sign written on it. So that's been in use since the mid-17th century, which is older than I would have thought.
That's fantastic. There were other things that were divisible as well. For example, the Spanish dollar was designed to be divisible.
Okay.
A Spanish dollar was worth 8 reals.
Right.
And you could actually cut it up into 8 pieces.
Right.
Pieces of 8.
Pieces of 8. No, you're kidding me. Is that where that comes from?
Yes.
Wow.
So a piece of 8 was a whole Spanish dollar.
Right.
So you could cut it up into half or into quarters.
A quarter dollar, yes. Brilliant.
Or 2 bits. Why is 2 bits a quarter? Because it's from the Spanish dollar.
Great. That's wonderful.
Do you know why dollars are green?
Nope.
American dollars.
Yeah, sure.
It was during the Civil War. They decided that dollars should be green.
Okay.
And they decided that they needed a dye for the paper that didn't discolour or fade or decompose.
Okay.
And they looked at lots and lots and lots of different dyes and colours. And the one that stayed as stable as possible was a green dye.
Right. Fascinating.
Paper money isn't really paper. It's mostly fabric.
Yes, it's sort of made out of cotton and things, isn't it?
It's about 25% cotton, 25% linen, and 50% pulp.
Really?
So there's a lot of fabric. You can wear money and it would be fine.
Brilliant.
Well, old money anyway, because new money's all made of plastic.
Yes.
You could probably wear that as well. But.
I read that the modern notes that are made out of plastic, the plastic is so rigid, if you were to cut a little sliver off a note, it would be sharp enough to use in place of the needle on a record player.
Wow!
So you could actually play a record with money.
The Federal Reserve made a $100,000 note.
Okay.
It was used to exchange money between banks.
Right.
So it never actually got out of the banking system.
Yeah.
Similarly, in the UK, there was another sort of internal banking thing where there were a few £1,000 notes knocking around the system for a while. And then Mark Twain came up with this idea of the £1 million banknote, which was made into a film starring Gregory Peck.
Oh, okay.
Which is, I think, isn't Gregory Peck? Oh, it's rhyming slang for check.
Okay.
So maybe we should talk about checks. I've never done such a good segue in my life.
Beautiful.
I'm very happy with that.
Let's just take a moment and enjoy that. Gregory Peck, check. Let's talk about checks. Wonderful.
Yes. So the origin of checks.
Do you know what? I never even thought about looking at checks. They seem like such a redundant thing to me now. I still have a checkbook. I never use it. Tell me about checks.
So checks were originally like a piece of paper that was given to somebody to give to somebody else in another place. So, for example, if you wanted to take money from one country to another, it was often Jewish moneylenders who did this. And you would go to your Jewish moneylender in Switzerland and say, could I have a note to give to a Jewish moneylender in London to say that I've given you this much money and that he should therefore give me that much money when I get to the UK?
Oh, I see. Okay.
And that was very early on, and then people used to write their own check. So then checks became a bit more formal. They had, you had to print some out with the name of the bank on the
Right.
top of the check, and
Yes.
ideally with your account number
Yes.
on the check somewhere. And you could still handwrite the check. But up until quite recently, you could write that on anything.
Oh, really?
For example, in 1978, someone wrote a check with the constituent parts all correctly filled in and drawn on a
Sure.
valid account. So they wrote on a large £150 halibut.
Wait. Sorry. On a halibut.
A £150 halibut
That's a
was a
big
check.
halibut.
And it was written out correctly. It was to honour a rates bill to the local council from a guy called Randall Arnold, who was reportedly protesting the condition of roads outside his frozen food depot.
Oh, that is so obscure.
I know. Do you know what? I'll put a picture on the show notes of this enormous, being held by two people, one at either end,
Wow.
£150 halibut.
How bizarre. People are odd, aren't they? So, you know how it's illegal to deface money?
Yes.
There's this whole thing about the fact that it's illegal to damage, tear, rip, burn, draw on, etc., money, which is one of the good things about plastic money, is that it makes it harder to do those things to it.
Yes.
But apparently it's only illegal to partly burn money.
Oh.
If you partly burn a banknote, it leaves itself open to being reintroduced into circulation and used. But of course it can't be used because it's partly burned.
Yeah.
And that's what causes the issue. So either you don't burn your money at all, or you completely and utterly burn it down to the level of ashes, so that there's no chance whatsoever of it being put back into circulation.
So the KLF weren't actually doing anything illegal.
No.
When they burnt, was it supposed to be £1 million or something that they burned?
Yeah, something like that, wasn't it? All of those cartoon characters who light their cigars with a burning banknote, perfectly fine, just so long as you let the banknote burn down
All
to
the way.
ashes. Yeah. I read that the British pound is the most counterfeited currency.
Oh, wow. The pound coin
Notes. Yeah.
Because these days, even coins have security. I mean, the old thing about clipping a coin.
Yes.
So coins were made of a precious metal.
Yes.
So, for example, a silver coin, you could just clip a little bit around the edge
Yes.
and then gather together all the clippings around the edge and make yourself another coin.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But people would accept it as the coin that it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So so that's why you have serrated edges on older coins. And now why modern coins, they go to even greater lengths to try and stop people from counterfeiting them.
What exists on a modern coin that makes it so uncounterfeitable?
Well, on a British coin, it's I think it's Latin. So
Right.
it's a whole Latin sort of verse on the sides of a British coin. If you look at the side of a British pound coin, you'll see something written on the side, and it's also serrated, and it's also I think it doesn't a modern pound. It's not round.
No, it's not. It's slightly well, it's not hexagonal, but it's got edges to it, hasn't it? It's got
and also
edges.
the British currency now. If you put it all together, I think it makes a picture.
It
You have
does,
one
yes.
of each.
Yeah, my son is fascinated with this fact that the most recent redesign of the British coins, can't remember how long ago that was now, but each one of them contains a section of a picture, and when you put them all together, it makes up the coat of arms of Great Britain, I think.
Yes, one of each denomination.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And it's such a good idea. It's really clever.
Now, I find it fascinating that at the root of all of this, talking about gold coins, silver coins, is precious metal. And I find it fascinating the history of gold. I mean, there's too much to go into here, but essentially, gold is only a precious metal for a handful of reasons. The biggest one being that it's pretty. If gold wasn't the colour it was, if it wasn't shiny,
Yes.
if it wasn't reasonably hard to find, and therefore have a little bit of rarity to it, no one would ever have used gold to make necklaces, earrings, jewellery, etc.
Or money. Yeah.
Or money, exactly. We would have had to find some other substance. I hadn't realised that the concept of digital cash was as old as it is. I sort of think of Bitcoin, it's very much a 21st century invention. In 1983, there was a fellow called David Chaum who wrote a research paper called Blind Signatures for Untraceable Payments.
And every drug dealer in the world read it.
And he put forward this theory of hypothetical digital currency, that it doesn't actually need to be physical anymore. It can just be represented digitally in one's bank account or whatever. But 1983, I hadn't realised it went back that far. And this fella was also sort of one of the first people to talk about blockchain and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
But yes, 1983.
Wow. But getting it out of a wall, you can't get virtual money out of a wall, can you?
No, you can't. No.
Because that's not been around that long either. That's been around since like 1967.
Really, ATMs have only been around since the mid-60s.
And British.
Hurrah!
Barclays.
Did we invent the ATM?
So the very first ATM was British.
Oh, well done us.
And it was in Enfield. Outside of Barclays Bank. And the first person to take money out of an ATM was an actor who was quite famous at the time called Reg Varney.
Oh, I recognise the name.
Now, Reg Varney was famous for his appearances on a TV show which was incredibly inappropriate called On the Buses.
Oh, yes.
Which would never get on air today.
Yes.
But was very popular at the time.
Great.
Have you done any research into the Guinness Book of World Records?
Yes, I have. I came up with nothing. I tried to find some interesting records about money. It's so broad a subject. You know, the most amount of money ever paid for this, or the wealthiest person, wealthiest company, wealthiest country.
Yes.
Just too much. I found a couple of loosely financial-based kind of records. The world's biggest piggy bank is in Ludwigsburg in Germany, and it's 18 feet high. It's bright red and it's made of fiberglass and reinforced plastic. Slightly tenuous, but there it is. I do like a record. The largest human currency symbol.
Okay.
This was a very odd thing to find. But in 2018, 1,717 people got together and stood in the design of the Indian rupee symbol, and a photo was taken of it from above. But is that really a record about money? Not sure. It's a bit
or
loose.
People.
Exactly. Or symbols.
Or symbols. I know that the largest coin ever minted was minted in 2007 in Canada.
Right.
It's called the Big Maple Leaf, the BML. And
Right.
in Canadian dollars, it's $1 million coin.
Oh, my goodness.
It weighs 100 kilos, 220 pounds, or 3,215 troy ounces. 5 of these coins were produced by the Royal Canadian Mint in 2007 at their Ottawa facility, where the first Big Maple Leaf produced is still in storage.
Oh, my goodness.
Can you imagine $1 million coin?
That's
I
only got a very, very few limited uses in life, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. One of them was nicked from a Berlin museum in 2017.
Crikey.
Yeah, and by that time, the value had actually gone up to about $4 million.
Sheesh. Imagine taking that into your local bank and asking for change.
It was an inch thick and 20 inches in diameter.
Oh, heck. Okay.
It's big.
That's very big, isn't it?
It's a very, very big coin. So in the UK, obviously the Bank of England is the big one where all the money comes from.
The Old Lady of Threadneedle Street.
That one. But there are several other banks who are entitled in the UK to issue banknotes.
Oh, really?
So the Royal Bank of Scotland, the Bank of Scotland and the Clydesdale Bank are all entitled to issue banknotes in the UK.
Huh.
As in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, the Bank of Ireland and the Ulster Bank, which is part of the NatWest Bank, are entitled to issue banknotes, as is, and this is really great. You remember there was an episode where we talked about Danegeld?
Yes. Was that in the Vikings episode?
Yes, in the Vikings. Well, the Northern Bank in Northern Ireland, they actually issue banknotes on Danske Bank. So
Oh.
technically, that's Danegeld.
Oh, that's brilliant. Who knew? I have no more facts. I have been shortchanged. My pockets are empty. My wallet is bare. I have no more facts.
Long pockets, short arms.
Short arms. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm finding myself a bit skint now as well. So, as we've both run out of interesting money facts, we could go with the boring. No, let's not go with the boring ones.
Who wants that kind of podcast?
Exactly.
Not me.
Exactly. So, like, subscribe, share, tell people, go out into the street right now and shout at the top of your voice, listen to Factoraly.
You won't be met with any amount of suspicion whatsoever. Thank you all very much for listening.
Yes.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and please come again next time for more Factoraly. Goodbye.
Cheerio.